So as I mentioned last video, I wanted to do a video about the potential draft picks that'll be available at 36th overall when the Giants pick in the second round. It's a very high second round pick, so hopefully they'll get a very talented player there. So I went over 5 players. We'll do more in the future, but these are 5 guys that I would want the Giants to maybe go after in the draft. Definitely take a deep look at, and hopefully they do their due diligence on that. So the big news, of course, today is that Leonard Williams was franchise tagged $16.1 million, I believe it was. That's what I've been seeing, at least. He's right now the second highest paid Giants player for next year, right behind Nate Solder. So right now the highest paid players in the Giants are, Nate Solder, Leonard Williams, Kevin Zeitler, Golden Tate, Saquon Barkley. And when your top guy is Nate Solder getting paid that much money, it's definitely not a good thing. That's not what you want to see, but I guess it is what it is at this point. But really, everyone else is fine. I mean, Golden Tate should be okay. It's kind of concerning about his age and whatnot. Saquon needs to stay healthy. But Leonard Williams and Kevin Zeitler, you know what you're getting out of them. They're not huge impact players, and you would like to have a guy on this team that makes a bigger impact, but I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, with that being said, I guess we all expected it. It is what it is. Leonard Williams is durable, does his job, and we know what he's going to give us, so I guess it is what it is. So now, let's get into the second round potential draft picks. Number one we'll go over here is Terrell Lewis, outside linebacker for Alabama. He's a guy that I've watched every possible YouTube video I can about him recently because I've been falling in love with him as a player. I think he's going to be a really good NFL player as long as he's healthy. That's really the main issue and the only reason why he would fall to the second round. So he missed a lot of the 2017 season with torn ligaments in his elbow, missed 2018 with an ACL injury. I think played every game last year, so at least he had a healthy 2019 season going into the draft, so that's going to help him a lot. He's 6'5", 262 pounds, just has the perfect body type for an outside linebacker. In 2019, had 11.5 tackles for a loss and 6 sacks. If you look at his game log, he had 6 sacks in 6 games, and then the final 6 games of the year. Didn't really do much in the sack category, but he was on a really good pace the first half of the year. I don't know what happened exactly, but it's whatever. So he has a really good first step in quickness. I mean, he basically can do anything. I mean, I feel like you can drop him in the coverage, he'll be okay there, but his quickness and explosiveness is definitely really good in my opinion. Has great length. I mean, I don't know what his wingspan is and whatnot, but you can just tell watching him on tape, he's just a lot bigger and lankier than most people out there. He also has power, and there's nothing that he can't do. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are just speed rushers, and as long as they can't beat you around the edge, they're really ineffective. But then Terrell Lewis is a guy that can use his power and speed rushing ability, so he has both, and that's definitely very intriguing. He plays physical and could get even better. I mean, that's definitely something that's possible. I mean, this guy was only a year removed from an ACL injury, so maybe in his, maybe 2 years removed from ACL injury, he'll be a lot better his first year in the NFL. It's definitely a possibility. He just has to be healthy. Of course, we can't guarantee that, but that would be pretty scary if he got even better. I mean, as I said before, he's gifted enough to match up with anybody. It doesn't matter because he can do everything. He can beat you around the edge. He can beat you with a spin move on the inside. He can bull rush people. I feel he can just do anything and could be a big discount in the draft due to his injury history. So, yeah, that is possible. You can tell here by, his game log or basically his statistics. He missed all of 2018, only played 4 games in the 2017 season. So, yeah, it's definitely concerning. I get that. But the fact that he played all the games in 2019 is definitely something you love to see. And look, it's the second round. I know it's a pretty high pick, but I'd rather take a gamble on a guy that's probably supposed to go in the first round based off his talent. So that's just me. But his cons are the injuries. I mean, it's definitely a major question for him, and the production does not match his athletic profile. So, this guy's like a freak athlete. I know, only having 6 sacks, and he did have 1 sack the first year, but I'm telling you, when you watch him on tape, just search Terrell Lewis versus whoever, and this guy is making pretty big impact plays all the time. I don't know why his stats didn't look so good, but when I watched him on tape, I said this is a guy who, if healthy, can be a really good NFL player. So if the Giants took him at 36, I would be thrilled about that. Next, we have Damon Arnette, the cornerback out of Ohio State. I know we always talk about Jeff Okudah, but this guy deserves a lot of recognition as well. He also favorited or liked my tweet yesterday, so I feel like me and Damon are good friends at this point. No, I'm kidding, but still, it was pretty cool. So he's 6 feet, just under 200 pounds, has size and physicality that he uses in his game. Doesn't allow much separation. That's definitely what I noticed on tape. He reminded me a lot of Julian Love last year. That's what I realized when I watched Julian Love before the draft. I was like, this guy does not allow much separation at all, and Damon Arnette is the same way in press man coverage. He definitely would have been a first-round pick in my mind if it wasn't for the quote-unquote character concerns, and I personally don't see that. I'll get into that later in the con section, but that's just something I don't understand. He is better in press coverage, like I said, like DeAndre Baker is. I mean, DeAndre Baker was not used the right way last year, so if you're going to draft Damon Arnette, hopefully they use him to his max potential and use him in press man coverage a lot. I love his technique, especially his footwork. When you see him matched up with receivers, he just does everything right, in my opinion. It's very rare to see this guy screw up in coverage. He's another guy that I basically watched every snap of that I could, that based on what's on YouTube, so I was very impressed with what I saw from him. Has great ball skills, has shut down potential. He did run a 4.5640, which isn't like phenomenal, but it's not too bad either. Only missed one game with a broken wrist. He basically played through a broken wrist last year, so it shows his toughness and that he wanted to be out there. He definitely could have left for his junior year, but decided to come back for his senior year. I think it shows a lot of maturity and stuff like that. So if there were real character concerns, I feel those are kind of in the past by now, and he really fixed everything. I mean, he could have left for the draft and said, screw it, I don't need to be here, but he wanted to come back, get himself better. He could have got paid a lot more if he left, obviously, for the NFL, but he wanted to come back and work on things and become a better player, so it shows that he loves football and wants to get better at what his future job's going to be, basically. So has tons of confidence and has dog in him. I mean, he's mentioned that a lot of times in his press conferences, that he likes to be called a dog and stuff like that. And we know Dave Gettleman, the GM, said he wants to have dogs on the defense. Well, here's a guy who's calling himself a dog and definitely plays like it. He's the type of cornerback that's not afraid to come up in the run game and make tackles. I think that's a big thing that goes kind of underestimated at times with cornerbacks. You don't really pay attention to them in run support, but this is a guy that can get it done. He might miss some tackles sometimes, but at least he gives you that effort. So my cons for him, he might struggle with the really fast receivers like like the Tyreek Hill types, like the Marquise Goodwin types. I mean, I'm sure he could do fine on Marquise Goodwin, but you know what I mean, like the fast and really talented receivers, there might be an issue there, but honestly, I feel like he'd be fine. So character concerns, I mean, that's an interesting one. I mean, I watched a 10-minute interview with him at the Combine. I think it was at the Combine, yeah. And I really didn't see anything wrong with him. I mean, he had a pretty good personality, a pretty good attitude, seemed like he loved football a lot, and I did not see any character concerns. I mean, I know you can't get everything out of a 10-minute interview, but I feel like whatever character concerns there were about this guy, I feel like that's just in the past, and I feel like he's matured a lot more. We see it happen in sports. I mean, I look at a guy like, I'm a Nets fan, D'Angelo Russell, coming from the Lakers. I mean, he was a bit immature there, came here, got a lot more mature in a span of 2 years. It's definitely possible to gain maturity as you get older. It's just everyone goes through it. So I think Damon Arnette is fine personality-wise. I would not be too concerned about that. He does enjoy contact that could be flagged in the NFL, so he does get a bit physical with wide receivers. We might see him get like illegal contacts, pass interferences, and stuff like that, so that's a concern. But I think DeAndre Baker played the same way in college, so it is what it is. And he could miss some tackles. I mean, a lot of cornerbacks, they're not perfect in tackling people, but the thing I like about Damon Arnette is he's not afraid to just stick his nose in there and make a tackle. So he's a guy that I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on. I mean, whenever people talk about the top corners in this draft, you never really hear Damon Arnette's name brought up for some reason, but for me, I think he's probably a top 5 corner in this class, and if he goes in like the mid-second round, that can be a fantastic pick for whichever team takes him. Up next is Julian Okwara from Notre Dame, the outside linebacker. So his brother, Romeo Okwara, played for the Giants in, I think, 2016 and maybe 2017. I think Gettleman cut him before the 2018 season, so at least we had his brother here for a little bit. But his younger brother, Julian, seems to have a bit more potential than Romeo. So he's 6'4", 252. In 2019 had a broken fibula, broken leg. Did miss a few games at the end of the season, so that sucks for him. So it's definitely something I've taken into account, but I wouldn't label him injury prone due to a broken leg. That would not be fair to him. So he has really good bursts and he's relentless. I mean, he definitely had a breakout season in 2018 when you look at his numbers, and he did take a step back in 2019. I know part of that was due to the injury, but people expected him to have like a really, really good 2019 season. Did not live up to it exactly, but when you watch this guy, he just has everything you'd want. I mean, he has a lot of power. That's the thing I realized the most. He's bull rushing guys that are like a lot heavier than him and a lot bigger than him, and he's still getting to the quarterback. So I watched him against Virginia recently. His game against Virginia from last year, he was just a game wrecker in that one. So it's possible that if he goes to the right scheme, the right coaching, the right coaching staff, I feel he can be a very good NFL player. I'm just not as sold on him as I am about Terrell Lewis and even Trayvon Diggs, who we'll talk about later. But, I feel Julian Okwara definitely has the potential. I feel like if he goes to the right team, the right coaches, he could be a really good player in the NFL. 33% of his tackles were for a loss in college. You would love to see that. Making plays in the backfield for negative plays, definitely something you love to see. Has the tools to get better. I definitely have said this many times. If he goes to the right coaching staff and they coach him the right way, use him in the right system, I feel this guy has a lot more untapped potential. And if the Giants took him, I'd be excited about it. The Giants have definitely taken some Notre Dame guys in the past. I know they have Julian Love and even Golden Tate on the roster right now. So, there's some people out here in this draft that have some good stats in college and whatnot, and you can take the Zach Bond types, but Zach Bond doesn't have the freakish athletic ability that Julian Okwara has, and I know his numbers aren't as good as Zach Bond, but he definitely has a higher ceiling in my mind, and I'm definitely a higher ceiling type of guy. I mean, it's nice to have the production in college, but you also have to look at the athletic profile and say, look, if this guy was put in the right system and whatnot, he could be a much better player. And for some reason, Notre Dame put him in a lot of pass coverage situations and stuff like that. So he wasn't rushing the passer a ton. There were a lot of times he was playing in zone coverage and stuff like that, even some man coverage. So that was kind of weird to see. But I feel like if he was using a different role, he could have had better numbers. So you can't really put that against Julian Okwara. That's just the system they were playing in. He's super athletic. Sky's the limit. The cons for him, he's a bit upright and stiff, in his pass rushing moves, which is definitely hurt your consistency. So that's something that coaches might have to fix a little bit, but it's not that much of a concern. It seems like something pretty easy to fix. His production did not match his body type. I kind of went over that before. I mean, when you look at a guy who's 6'4", 250, had 27 bench reps, and I don't know what his 40 time was and whatnot. I don't even know if he ran the 40, but apparently the guy had a good combine, so it's kind of weird to see his numbers not match up the body, but I talked about that with Terrell Lewis before. Trayvon Diggs is the same way. You have guys in this draft that are just freak athletes, but for some reason did not produce the way you thought they would in college. But I feel like if they went to a better system and scheme for them in the NFL, it could work. So his 2019 was a bit of a drop-off from 2018. I know there were some very high expectations for him this year. Didn't exactly live up to him, but it's not like he had a bad year. I mean, the guy had 7 sacks. He had how many tackles do you have? I can't even find it right now. He had 9 solo tackles, 10 assisted tackles, 19 total. So that's not great, but he definitely shows the ability to get to the quarterback, which is what you want from your outside linebacker. He has covered in pass coverage before in college, so he has that to his game as well. Not sure how good he is at it, but at least he's done it before, so it's not something new to him. So he's a guy that I'm not as high on him as I said before as Terrell Lewis, Trayvon Diggs, and some other guys in that range, but if he was good in the NFL, I would not be surprised by it, because I feel like if he went to the right team and they used him the right way, he could be a very effective NFL player. Up next is Trayvon Diggs, the guy I've talked about many times before. I mean, I had him going to the Giants in my mock draft a few weeks ago. I won't spend too much time on him. If you want to go back and listen about him, just go back to the mock draft video. So he's 6'1", 205. PFF gave him a 90.1 coverage grade, which you love to see. Really good in zone coverage. I think he's really good in press man coverage as well. Has the body type where he has the long arms, and if he gets his long arms on you, it can alter a wide receiver's route and makes it very tough on them. Has good footwork and instincts in my mind. I mean, the one bad thing I saw about him in coverage was for some reason he would slip sometimes. I mean, I don't know if it's his cleats or his shoes or whatever it is, but sometimes he slipped. It happened multiple times, which I found kind of weird, but if they can fix that, maybe it's the field they were playing on, but if they can fix that, I think he'd be very good, obviously. But there were some times where he slipped and it led up a big play, so it is what it is. He's long, has very good instincts and quickness. He started out as a wide receiver. His brother, of course, plays wide receiver for the Vikings, Stefon Diggs, and he transitioned in his sophomore year to cornerback and just was really good at it. I don't know how he became so good all of a sudden. I guess when you're that athletic, it's not too hard, but still, I mean, he's somewhat new to the position, so he might keep getting even better, which is definitely something you have to like. And, I think he has a long enough strides. He doesn't have elite quickness, but has long enough strides and long enough arms to make up for that. I think that's fine. As I said before in a previous video, he's very good at playing the deep ball. I mean, for some reason, on deep balls, he's just phenomenal at just tracking the ball. That could be the wide receiver skills coming into it as well, but very very good at tracking the ball and just playing it at the high points. So there's a lot of positives about Trayvon Diggs. I mean, the one bad thing is probably tackling, which isn't that great. It doesn't have like elite 4.3, 4.4 type speed. Probably he might run like a high 4.4, but I'm not really sure. He didn't do the I don't think he participated in the combine, so I'm kind of just guessing about that. But doesn't have really elite speed on tape, and that could be a concern. But it's not really a concern for me because, as I said, he has the strides and the long arms that make up for it. So if they could fix up his tackling, which is definitely, he has the body type to be a good tackler. So once again, if he goes to the right coaching staff, they can fix that. He should be fine. And I'm not exactly sure he'll go in the second round. He might be a late first round pick, would not surprise me at all. But if he's there at 36th overall, he's definitely a guy that the Giants could take. I know some people think we have enough cornerback depth. I don't agree with that, honestly. So maybe Trayvon Diggs is a guy that can play, on the outside next to DeAndre Baker. That would be a good move in my opinion because he has a lot of upside. And if the Giants have a good defense and good coaching staff with Patrick Graham, and they use him the right way in press man coverage, then I think that can be a very nice pick. Last, we have Trayvon Diggs, one of the most interesting prospects in this draft, outside linebacker for LSU. Apparently, Austin Hooper went to the Browns. I do not understand that whatsoever, but you guys probably heard that by now. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever, but whatever. All right, so he's 6'3", 254. He wears number 18, which shows leadership and good characteristics and stuff like that for LSU players when they wear number 18, so that's definitely a good thing. He's agile, flexible, very athletic, has a high football IQ. He once called himself the most valuable player in the draft, so this guy thinks very highly of himself, has a lot of confidence, I think can develop into one of the most dangerous pass rushers in the NFL. Maybe he could put on a bit more. Actually, no, I was going to say put on more weight, but apparently he's 254 pounds. It does not look like that at all on tape. I thought he'd be like 230, but it really 254. That makes no sense to me, but I guess internet doesn't lie, so I can't really counteract that in any way, but 254 makes no sense to me. But had 13.5 tackles for loss and 6.5 sacks in 2019. So this was his breakout year. He only played one game in 2018, obviously, with the ACL tear, so that sucks. But he had a pretty good 2019 season, had a total of 60 tackles, 6.5 sacks, which is pretty good. You would think with a guy like him who has just a tremendous body type and stuff like that, has a very, very high ceiling. I mean, you figured he'd do a little bit better in college, especially on a good defense like LSU, but maybe there's just another level that he can reach in the NFL. I'm not really sure, but this guy can be a player that can be very average. I mean, we saw a guy, Kareem Martin on the Giants, who had a very good body type and stuff like that, but really did not do much at the outside linebacker position. So just because you have a good body type doesn't necessarily mean you'll produce, but I think Trayvon Diggs is definitely more talented. He definitely has a higher ceiling in my mind, so I think this is a guy that you look back on this draft, if he goes in I think he could go in the mid-first round, honestly. It would not shock me at all. He could be like that surprise pick who goes in the top 10, but there's also a possibility he falls to the second round. I've seen some mock drafts that have him in the second round, so that's why I had to include him, but we could look back on this draft and say, how did Trayvon Diggs fall this far? But then again, he might not live up to his potential, so he might be a guy who is that type of guy that's built in a lab, but never really produces. So I think he has all the potential in the world. He does have some, I think issues with power. I think he's more of a speed rusher. It just really surprised me that he's 254 pounds, but I think can get a little better with strength and stuff like that. I think the powerful offensive lineman that can move well, he might have an issue with those type of guys. Sometimes loses his balance. I saw him fall down a few times. I know that's a Trayvon Diggs type of thing I was just talking about, but he's the same way, a guy who can lose his balance sometimes. Had 35 pressures in 2019, which it's not terrible, but it's not great either. His production was never great, so you look at the body type and the talent this guy possesses, and you kind of wonder why it wasn't only 6.5 sacks. This guy probably should have been at least 10 sacks probably last year, but this is a guy who, based off his numbers, might be at a discount. If he falls to 36th overall, I think it'd be worth the risk to take him. I don't think he'll be a terrible player in the NFL. He just might not reach that potential as some people have him as. Some people think he's one of the best, maybe top 2 edge rushers. I can't say he's better than Chase Young, but some people might think he's a top 2 edge rusher, probably number 2 in this draft. So it's definitely possible. He has all the potential in the world, but we'll see what happens. So I do, at the end of the day, think he goes in the first round. I think mid-first round. I saw him going to the Falcons in a mock recently. I think that makes a lot of sense. They lost Vic Beasley. They need a pass rusher, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe he goes to Atlanta. So we'll see. But if he falls to the second round, I think that's a risk you might have to take at that point. So K'Lavon Chaisson definitely adds versatility as well. We know Joe Judge wants guys that are versatile. He would definitely be a guy that can add versatility to your defense. So with that being said, I kind of just want to rank these players real quick. I didn't make a list, so I'm kind of just going to say off the top of my head. So at 36 overall, who would I want the most? I'd probably say Chaisson if he falls. I think that guy has too much of a high ceiling where you don't pass on a guy like that. Number 2, I just love Terrell Lewis. I might say Terrell Lewis. I'm probably going to say Terrell Lewis number 2. Number 3, I guess I would go Trayvon Diggs. Number 4, Damon Arnette. And number 5, Julian Carter. But I would like to have any of these guys. There's a reason I picked these 5 because I like these guys. I mean, if the Giants took any of these guys at number 36, I would not be mad about it at all. I'd be a very big fan of those picks, and hopefully they can make this happen. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know who you like the most out of these prospects and who should I be looking at for another video like this. I'll probably do another set of guys for a potential 36th overall pick. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.